Welcome to you all. My name is Andrew Chung, artistic producer of London Symphonia, and I've got with me today our special guest piano soloist, David Jalbert. Hello, David.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm really looking forward to this concert. The last time you were in London performing with the orchestra goes back to, I believe we say 2016. It was Chopin on that occasion. Um, his second piano concerto.
I think that's right. Yes,
And
absolutely.
this was back in the We Play On days. We weren't
That's
even
right. That's
launched
right.
as London Symphony. And what stands out to me most is that on that occasion we asked you, would you consider performing? And without even hesitation, you're like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, and I'm not accepting a fee. And I was like, what? What a guy. You were an absolute prince. And yeah, it was just a very memorable, meaningful concert. And with this upcoming concert, we get to look forward to you performing Ravel's Piano Concerto in G major. So just like in your world right now, you've just recorded Prokofiev's complete solo piano works. Oh, this is volume three, is it?
Yeah, it's the complete piano sonatas, not all the works, because it would be more than three volumes. Thankfully, I've limited myself to three fully packed CDs of Prokofiev in this case. But yes, the third volume was just released on September 12th. And now I'm redoing the whole cycle live at Salle Bourget in Montreal this season. So
Incredible,
yes, there's
incredible.
been a lot of Prokofiev in the pipeline. It's wonderful to be playing some Ravel, actually.
Right, right. Well, you were saying that the Prokofiev is hard on the body, like it's very,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
physical.
Yes, it's very physical, very violent piano writing, right? At its extremes, of course, there's a lot of beautiful, tender music. But Prokofiev was a wicked pianist, and he wrote for his own hands. And so was Ravel. Ravel is as wicked a piano writer in a very, very different way, but it's equally as demanding and certainly such inspired music. I'm really happy to kind of change directions for a little bit, and I thought, oh, Ravel G major concerto, what a treat!
Oh, wonderful. And so are you familiar with the Ravel, like deeply familiar with the Ravel concertos? Like there's the
Wait,
G major one that you'll perform, and then there's the one for just the left hand. Have you performed these multiple times before?
yes, both multiple times. Left hand concerto ever since I was 16 years old. I won a Canadian music competition with it as a kid, and then won the OSM competition with it. And yeah, I've played it, with OSM, with TSO. I've played in Germany. So that was the one that I played first, and of course I played the G major a bunch of times. Also, I love Ravel. Actually, at 14, I was madly in love with the Ravel G major concerto. And it's a funny story I always tell. My teacher was a nun, a wonderful teacher. So Pauline Charon, sister Pauline Charon, I should say. She's taught so many great pianists. But of course, she was of her era and a little bit conservative. And at 14, I wanted to play the Ravel G major concerto. And she said, no, 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 you must play the left hand concerto because the G major is for girls.
It's really.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh, what a story.
So yeah, I've been thrilled to play it ever since.
Thankfully you persisted. Oh my
Oh
goodness,
yeah.
that's wild. That is wild. So, how do you get into the space of playing Ravel? How do you switch tracks from Prokofiev to Ravel? Like, do you look to his his solo piano pieces? Do you look to what do you do?
It's just all in a day's work, I'd say, right? If you practice a piece, you immerse yourself in it, you practice a different piece. It's like changing characters if you're an actor, a little bit. This is music that I teach all the time, right? I have a student who just won first prize at the concerto competition at school with Rafael G major, so I've been, coaching him in it and playing the second piano part with him. I teach the solo piano works all the time. I play most of them, of course. I'm very familiar with the writing of Ravel. He's like an old friend, right? Like you've played his music ever since you've been, 14, 15. So it feels like someone that you shared your life with in a strange way. So, going back to the concerto in G is really like going back to an old friend, like, and you don't have to catch up. You don't have
Right.
to be like, what have you been doing? Because that connection is still there, right? The fingers need a little work. Yeah, you mostly remember how it goes, but some of the tricks don't work anymore. Um,
Right.
but yeah, in
Right.
terms of the music, the character, right? Like it's just been with me for so long.
So, what influences do we hear in this concerto? So, where do you feel that Ravel drew his inspiration from?
It's an astonishing piece in the breadth of influences and inspirations that informs it, right? Over three movements, and it's a fairly short concerto as these things go, right? It's about 22 minutes of music, three movements, but you have uh, so many worlds in it, right? There's some very rebellion, very French themes in it, very stylistically, only Ravel could write this moment. And then flamenco, and then 1 minute later, American jazz. Um, and it switches back and forth among these different influences, like something very French, that Ravel melancholy, and then somehow it becomes Spanish again, and then it becomes American again. And the miracle is that it all makes sense
Right.
and it
And
flows beautifully and it feels completely seamless and I find it endlessly fascinating. I've known the piece for 30 years and it never ceases to amaze me how amazing a composition it is.
yeah, and
And
it
we
is
haven't
so
even
so
gotten
concise.
so
Pardon me.
concise and we
Yeah.
haven't even gotten to the second movement yet.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. So, so like as a performer, what like is it written really? Does it sit really well for the hands? Ravel being a pianist himself, he was supposed to do the premiere of the concerto, and maybe his aspirations kind of outshone his real ability to play this work. Um,
Yeah, it was too hard for him for sure. Like most of the music he wrote, right? Unlike someone like Prokofiev, who was a really badass virtuoso, Ravel was a good pianist, uh, who somehow sadistically specialized in writing extraordinarily difficult piano music. That there's no way he could play. Of course, Gaspard de la Nuit and many of the solo works are just so demanding and exacting technically. Um, and yeah, Ravel was just not at this level as a pianist or didn't want to practice to reach that sort of level. So he was happy to have virtuosos perform his works. I believe Marguerite Long gave the premiere of the G major concerto. And by then, of course, it's later in Ravel's life. The concertos are very late works as far as Ravel's span of composition goes. This is from 1931. Both concertos are from the 30s and probably his last piano works, unless I'm mistaken. Um, it's later in his career, so even less likely that he would sit down and perform them. I mean, they're very tricky, right? Like the piano writing of Ravel, I often joke with my students that the basic hand positions, for Mozart, Beethoven, maybe Brahms, a bit more spread out. Ravel is this.
no.
And that causes a lot of problems. And the very beginning, in fact, of the concerto, I don't know if this will work, but it's in this position. Right? You have the hands on top of each other, and this is the case where Gaspard de la Nuit starts like this. Tombeau de Couperin starts like this as well. Um, that causes all sorts of problems that you don't have with a standard piano writing until Ravel has this thing with the hands on top of each other, and it's extremely awkward.
Now, is that a Gershwin influence? I think of Gershwin in kind of that kind of overlapping.
Gershwin writes, I'm so sorry with the wobbly camera.
Okay.
Gershwin writes in a much more natural way. I find it fits the hands better.
Right, right.
Ravel really goes out of his way to get something, a different sound out of the piano. And with the two hands in the same register, you sacrifice a lot of dimension, which you have to go find with voicing and articulation, and that's an aspect artistically that makes his music not only demanding technically, but also in terms of creating a sound that's captivating, even though you're often restricted to a small register.
Interesting. And so I guess it's oftentimes, right, through constriction, we end up with something that's more creative.
Yes,
Right.
yes, I guess it's extremely original piano writing. That's especially present in the first movement, but definitely also in the third in this piece. The third is more Mozartian and extremely virtuosic, but more in a standard fast-fingered way. I would say very very bright and exciting.
So these outer movements, they're fast, they're lively, interjections of jazz, Spain, flamenco, a- and then and I hear Gershwin in there. I hear those American, influences. Okay, but let's get to the second movement. So this is like one of the most poignant for me, one of the most beautiful pieces ever written. Um, what tell me about this. Tell me about this movement.
It's completely astounding. Of course, I never will get tired of this music. I find there's a timelessness to it. Um, it's it's a slow waltz of sorts. It's a waltz that's in fact in 3/4, but somehow the waltz is in 3/8 within the 3/4 bar, which is maybe a bit too technical for this interview, but it's a definite quirk of the writing, and it changes the way that the melody is shaped on top of it. Um, the first time I heard it, I was a child practically. I still remember that first impression of this slow movement with this long, slow waltz of a piano solo, uh, opening it in E major. So warm-hearted, but like that Ravel melancholy and the long line
Mhm.
and those harmonies that are just rubbing against each other just right. Um, it's so completely unique as a moment in piano literature, and it's had a huge influence, right? I mean, there are great jazz pianists that play this movement and barely change a note because they just want like that little atmosphere from their band or the it, but um, and then the woodwinds come in, and it feels like a miracle when
A
when the
miracle.
orchestra enters.
Yes.
And,
Because time stands still, the piano entry, it's like it is
mm,
timeless. It's
mm,
crazy what he's able
absolutely,
to create.
yeah.
Um, oh my goodness. What I wouldn't love to just sit in your teaching studio as you explain this movement to your students. Um, I mean, what does it make you think of while you're performing it, this middle movement?
Ooh.
Do you have a poetic? Is there a poetic kind of connection you make, or you is it more on the
Not too much, not initially. I mean, well, of course, like I have such a sense of the sound of it that I want, right? What's difficult when you finish the first move, which is very exciting, is finding right away that serenity and that calm and the right tempo to start the second movement because it's very slow and very suspended immediately, and you're full of adrenaline after the first movement. That's a big challenge I find every time. Um, and then to create that bubble immediately, to have everyone from the first note. Uh, there's a way to create your sound that will make everyone listen, and you need to make that happen from the very start of this movement. And I feel that as I start the melody, after the first note or second, I know whether I'm on it or not. Um, and it's easy in the practice room. I can be, okay, that was bad. I'll start over. Unfortunately, on stage you just have to get it right. But then, of course, like the atmosphere of the concert tends to inspire one to play it even better. And it feels very delicate, very melancholy, very French initially, and then after the woodwinds come in, uh, it turns slightly jazzy,
Mm.
and again, not as openly jazzy as the first movement, but there's that jazz color in the middle section of the movement with these descending sixteenths and the piano. The harmonies are so clearly influenced by American jazz, where Ravel was just coming back from a tour in America, right? Um, so there's jazz in this piece in all the movements, but in very, very different declinations. And uh, and then, of course, the movement ends with this long section where the opening melody is given to the English horn, and the piano plays this filigree of 30 seconds in the upper register, which is one of the most magical moments in the
It is.
concerto repertoire. One of those, like, okay, I want to be a pianist so that I can play this.
Yes. Oh, it must be so delightful. I can't wait to perform this work with you, David. Thank you for joining me today. And
Thank you so much. I'm
you
looking
know,
forward to it as well.
yes, I look forward to our concert together on October the 4th at Metropolitan United. So now we welcome our guest conductor for our opening night, Cosette Justo Valdés. Hello, Cosette.
Hello, it's such an honor to be talking with you, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, believe me. And you're making your debut with London Symphonia, which is always exciting for us, and hopefully equally exciting for you.
Very.
And yeah, this is awesome. And we're lucky to be able to squeeze you into your busy schedule. You've been the resident conductor in Edmonton Symphony for the past 6 seasons.
Hmm.
And now wow, you're just taking flight. I mean, you and I were just talking before this interview. You're across North America, you're into Europe. Um, how does that all feel? Spreading your wings in that way and just on the move.
Well, it feels like a great privilege, of course. I'm honored to be invited by all these great orchestras. If you are more curious, I'm talking to the audience now. You can just check my website. You'll see in the schedule all the dates, so I don't have to use interview time, precious time to discuss interesting things. But yes, I have many wonderful dates this season and wonderful opportunities to explore repertoire that I know, but also music that I've not conducted yet and will do for the first time. So it is a balance of new discoveries plus sharing with the world what I have gathered so far in terms of knowledge and experience. So it's a wonderful thing to be able to travel the world this full season.
And in putting this program together as an example,
Mhm.
we had a good sense that we wanted to do this Mozart Symphony 39. We had a good sense we wanted to do this Ravel piano concerto, and I tossed it over to you, and I'm like, okay, Cosette, so I'm aware that you're a great programmer, really adventuresome, programming, and what would you be interested in doing? You came up with these two pieces and from composers who I'd never heard of. So maybe we should just kind of dive right in a little bit. So opening our season, we have this piece by Augusta Holmes, La Nuit et l'Amour. So it's a gorgeous piece. Never heard of this composer. How did you come across her?
Well, I came across her by researching because this is one of the things I do continuously to be able to discover new music. But new music doesn't mean necessarily living composers. New music is music we don't know, and the audience doesn't know, and the musicians haven't played yet. So it's a great discovery, the discovery experience. And yes, in looking for, I remember this one I discovered by just simply trying to discover more French music. And then she was, not a daughter of French people, and her story was that she became a French citizen later. She was born in 1847 and lived until 1903. A fascinating woman. This piece particularly is like an interlude from Ludus Pro Patria. She was very famous for writing pieces, and I will share about her influence then after, for writing pieces that had the main theme of love with political and social awareness. So she wrote pieces that would imply lots of people involved, choruses and singers, I mean, soloists, and then big orchestras, big numbers, because she was particularly very influenced by Richard Wagner since a very early age. She was, of course, a woman in that time, would have it very difficult to be acknowledged and to be published as a composer. So she actually wrote music under a pseudonym, which was Hermann Senta. She also was very curious, of course, a composer woman, and was always searching for mentors. She wasn't studying, she didn't follow a typical path of studying in the conservatory in Paris, but she actually was mentored by César Franck. She showed her work to Franz Liszt very, very early on. She had relationships also of friendship with Camille Saint-Saëns, and well, a woman that would create, organize artistic gatherings in the city of Paris. She also championed Wagner's work at a time in which he wasn't popular there, in a very important concert series called the Concert Populaire. And she wrote 4 operas. The only one that was premiered was titled La Montagne Noire. And yeah, I mean, she was a fascinating woman. She never married. She lived with a lover, a poet, and she had 5 illegitimate children. She didn't recognize them legally as her children. So very controversial woman, and
Right.
breaking lots of patterns as a composer and as a person. For example, as a composer, it was expected of her that she would write only like music for one voice and piano and all this
Right.
salon music as a
Yes.
woman, right? Composer. But she wrote music that was at the time the critics would write very virile, very, very, very masculine, using lots of brass, using lots of numbers, as was this strong influence from Wagner. So yes, this is a very gorgeous piece. We are not going to start the concert with a bombastic piece. This is actually a very gentle piece.
Mm.
But if you know this context, you can then appreciate even more the intimacy of this piece with this gorgeous sound of cellos and the harps and the colors that she creates.
And it's also the tip of the iceberg of her output, right? I mean, to me, it's
Exactly.
just mind-boggling. So you don't even have formal training at the conservatoire where they're bringing you through stages of composition. She's finding independent mentors, and
Mm-hmm.
then she achieves such an incredible professional proficiency at her art form. 4 operas, and one of them produced at the Paris Opera. I mean, what a woman! Absolutely amazing.
Yes,
And
fascinating.
that, and this piece, I think it's 6 or 7 minutes, right?
Yes,
So
very
we
sure.
just get just a little bit of a nibble of her output, which is awesome. So I was super pleased that you brought this to me. And then, knowing that you are of Cuban heritage, I said, okay, well, what about something from Cuba? And you came up with this delightful piece by Rodrigo Prats. Tell me a little bit about this.
Yes, well, Rodrigo Prats is a great Cuban composer that not many know about. You know, some people know Ernesto Lecuona and Manuel Saumel, Cervantes, many other names, but Rodrigo Prats hasn't yet been championed enough. And one reason is sometimes because the manuscripts and the edited music is not uh, easy to reach, basically, and is not too often performed. I have the privilege to be friends with his grandson. So, yes, because he was born in 1907 in Cuba, in Villa Clara, and lived until 1980. And I was born in 1983, so I didn't get to know him. But I met in La Habana his grandson, who is an opera singer
Oh,
and has all the library, basically the things that his grandfather had privately, he owns them, right? And he's such a wonderful man, so he shared with me a lot of information, and this is a piece that has been actually even recorded. You can find it on YouTube, but the score is not circulating in a way that everybody can play it easily. So we typed it from the manuscript again because we couldn't find where the score is at the moment. So we had to type it again with his permission. And then this is a gorgeous piece that shows, as well as the whole mess one, a very short, just a teaser, let's say, of what this great composer, he was a conductor too, by the way, he was a composer, a violinist, a arranger, pianist, and conductor, what he wrote. He wrote many different genres like canción, which is song, danzón, guaracha, sainetes, which are like short comedies, zarzuelas, which we know is like the Spanish-speaking operetta. His most famous zarzuela is the zarzuela Amalia Batista, which is very gorgeous and funny as well. So this piece particularly, because in his music you can find the influence. Cuba is a mix of Spanish and African music. Unfortunately, we lost our indigenous people when the Spanish conquered our country. So they were wiped out, and our indigenous people who were living there didn't survive. So the Spanish who moved to Cuba brought African slaves, and from those different cultures, the first Cuban criollo people born in Cuba generations started, right? So that's why our music is primarily composed by African and Spanish music. In Rodrigo Prats, you can find both influences very strongly. And in this particular piece, is more the Spanish influence what you can hear than the African. So it's titled Canta el carretero cuando dan las seis. And the image is just so programmatic because it's the cart man basically who carries anything. El carretero is a man with a horse and a cart which will transport things for people, right? And or people actually in the
oh,
countryside in
oh,
Cuba.
okay.
Still to the day, still you can sit in the back. They have two lanes like that, and you can sit and be transported. So, and very connected with agriculture for sure. And then in Cuba, well, it's summer the whole year, so people wake up very early. You want to wake up because you hear, all the birds and the chickens, and it's so easy to feel the energy to want to wake up. So when I go there, for example, something I never do when I'm outside of Cuba, at 6 a.m., I'm super wanting to experience the day because the sun is out already. In other places, I'm not waking up earlier than 8 a.m. So there it's really listening to this music the way it starts with the trills of the flute and this beautiful introduction. It's literally the sunrise, right?
Yeah.
And you can feel like you're in the countryside and the air is fresh and this like humid early morning, so it's very evocative, very evocative. And then the piece evolves into a guajira, which is a genre of Cuban music, and which is ta 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 tan 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 ta ta ta, has to do influence from the habanera, because again it has to be with
Yes,
Spanish music.
Spanish.
And we have a beautiful trumpet solo. So we have some aspects of the piece that are violin solos. We have
Yes.
many in such a short time. Beautiful moments are different, and yeah, it's just a fantastic piece that shows a little bit of so much that the Cuban repertoire has to offer.
Oh, so great. I mean, your enthusiasm for this stuff is just like, which is
Yes,
it's
I love
and it's
it.
infectious, and I can't wait to work on this piece for you and for you to explain to the orchestra. Um, and and so, just touching on this a little bit, this is a real passion of yours to make the music of Cuban composers more readily available. And you worked, do I have this right? So you worked in Santiago for a
Yes,
number of years and
yes,
with an orchestra that was like 80 members or something, is very large,
yes, yes,
right?
very large.
And then, but was one of your missions there to bring the library to a more accessible, state so that people could access this music? Was that part of your,
Yes, yes.
your
I finished in my, thank you for referring to this. It's very personal and meaningful to me to talk about this. When I finished my bachelor degree in La Habana, normally there is a different system, and to not go deeply into it, basically you don't audition for the job, but the professors, conductors that are in charge of the cultural uh, directive of the country, basically, and in music is a little bit from from La Habana comes all this directive on who should go where, and based on your studies, how you were as a student and your credentials, they would send you to work with different orchestras for the first years, in which you would basically pay back your studies, because our studies there are for free. So you have to go where they send you, and then your professional life starts as it should, as it goes. And then they asked me, would I want to go to Santiago de Cuba? I am from Holguín, which is a nearby, next city by Santiago de Cuba in the east of the country. So they asked me if I wanted to go there to work with this orchestra that was at the time 46 years old, 80 members all the time, because it's subventioned. It works different. The funding is totally different there. And with a team of one librarian and one administrator. That's it. Of course, but I was just graduated, and even today, knowing what is possible in Cuba, I would say yes again, because it is
Yes,
what it is, right?
yes.
And I was very excited to take on this responsibility with some experience conducting while a student in some orchestras, but not really much. So I had to learn so much with them, and then we created a bond that was incredible, and I was able there to develop so that everyone was basically I call it outgrowing our jobs, doing way more than is expected of us. And yes, we
Mm.
organize our library, musicians help promoting the concerts. I remember we would print one page of paper with the information of the program many times, basically like business cards, and we would cut them with the scissor
Yes.
and give this to the people on the streets and make it
Yeah,
just be full, the concert be full,
yeah.
and we wouldn't earn more for selling out a concert, but just the excitement to share the music after having worked so hard to prepare it for a week. So my life
Wow.
there was, yes, fascinating. There is on YouTube actually one video clip with me and this orchestra,
Right.
which was very funny because the piece doesn't have tuba, but we had our tuba player play trumpet in one moment of the video clip, so that he was in the video and every member of the orchestra was in the video. Yes, these are the memories, the first ones I can share with you I had with this orchestra.
Oh, I love that. I mean, it speaks to, well, in Canada and the United States, just that explosion of orchestras, beginning in, I don't know, like the 60s or something, right, that,
Uh-huh.
right? And this proliferation of professional orchestras, and just like that, it would have taken people younger people with a lot of energy,
Exactly.
right? And just a passion for the project and the sharing of the music. And wow, what an amazing experience
It was great. It was
to
great.
go through that and to uplift these musicians and the music and just the whole culture in Santiago. Extraordinary.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Mozart, which
Yeah.
is, this the symphony certainly stands out and largely acknowledged as one of his finest. Probably not just because it was at the end of his time on Earth, but like, what do you feel makes this symphony so distinctive?
Well, it was one of his last three symphonies, written in basically like a set, and it was in the summer of 1788. And one thing that is very distinctive of this symphony, and we were talking about instrumentation, is that it doesn't have oboes, and he substitutes the oboes for the I mean, it just omitting the oboes as he did in his third symphony. He did the same in his 18th symphony, and one particular thing about that 18th symphony is that then he has four horns and no oboes, just the flute. So it's just interesting how he plays with instrumentation, he plays with color, and this one symphony is the least famous of the three, of the 39, 40th, of course, and Jupiter, and for 41. And I think it's a good thing in the sense that it's not overplayed, that it can still offer so many surprises for the musicians and for the audience. And of course, it features the maturity of Mozart's work, the simplicity with which he takes one motif and uses it throughout the whole movement and takes all the juices out of it.
Yes.
And the surprises that are still there, although we feel like with Mozart, you know where it should go, inevitably it has to go there, and yet there is great surprises. His admiration for Haydn, which is the surprise factor, is, or for me, always fascinating in Haydn, and in Mozart you can see it here. And yes, it's a jewelry of a symphony to be able to play.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Cosette. I'm really looking forward to working on this with you and, sharing this concert experience together. This is our opening night on October 4th at Metropolitan United. Thank you so much.
My great honor to work with you, Andrea, and to be speaking with you today.